first 3 centuries after Christ's resurrection, the lives of the martyrs of the Church were commemorated on the day, and in the place where they were killed. There were so many, who were killed because of their faith in Christ during those centuries. Throughout the Christian Church different days were set aside not only for each martyr, but a special day for all saints. The earliest reference to a day being dedicated to the commemoration of all the martyrs and all saints of the Christian Church comes from the 2nd century. The document is titled, "The Martyrdom of Polycarp." Polycarp was a Christian killed because he would not deny Christ. The document says, "Accordingly, we afterwards took up his bones, as being more precious than the most exquisite jewels, and more purified than gold, and deposited them in a fitting place, whither, being gathered together, as opportunity is allowed us, with joy and rejoicing, the Lord shall grant us to celebrate the anniversary of his martyrdom, both in memory of those who have already finished their course, and for the exercising and preparation of those yet to walk in their steps." Later, a Christian bishop named Ephraim, the Syrian mentions a common All Saints' Day in 373. In 397 Saint Basil of Caesarea chose a day, when the churches of his bishopric would honor the memories of all saints known, and unknown, alive or in heaven. Later, John Chrysostom mentions a common day of memorial for the saints in 407 AD. In the year 609 or 610 Pope Boniface IV established a date for All Saints' Day on May 13. And later, in the early 700s AD, Pope Gregory III changed the date to November 1. Decrees like this took some time to propagate from Rome to the more remote areas, where the Church was found. But the change in date had nothing to do with any pagan practices. Pope Gregory IV extended the celebration on this day to the entire Western Church in the early 800s. And again, the change took time, as it spread from Rome. The point is this: a common day for commemorating the saints has been around throughout the Christian Church from very early times. And the fact that it falls on November 1 today has nothing to do with paganism. Okay, so what does this have to do with Halloween? In the Bible the day begins at sundown or evening. This is why we have Christmas Eve. Halloween is All Hallows Eve, that is All Saints' Evening. Halloween is the beginning of All Saints' Day starting at sundown on October 31. Many of the Christian churches in the conservative traditions claim that Halloween is a pagan celebration. Very often they do this by referring to neo-pagan and Wiccan writings. And there are many in the neo-pagan, Wiccan and especially the anti-Christian media communities, who have tried hard to claim Halloween as an ancient pagan holiday that had been stolen by the Christian Church. The claim is that the old folklore demonstrates where we got Halloween. But folklore does not support the neo-pagan or the Wiccan claims about Halloween. Instead, these anti-Halloween people depend on fake lore, invented, and fake, pretend folklore, like Pecos Bill and the song Follow the Drinking Gourd. The typical claims in current sources are that Halloween comes from ancient Celtic practices, Catholic and Roman religious rituals and European folk traditions. With respect to the origins of All Saints' Day, these claims are false. With respect to the modern repaganizing of Halloween, the neo-pagan version of Halloween does not really come from ancient pagan sources. It comes from modern sources, that pretend to be old but are not. These modern sources are simply fiction. Doesn't Halloween have its origins in Samhain? Anti-Halloween people like to claim that the source of Halloween is the Celtic festival of Samhain. There are 3 basic problems with their claim. 1. The celebration of All Saints' Day did not originate in Ireland or any other area populated by Celts or their descendants. 2. None of the days on which All Saints' Day was celebrated had anything to do with any Celtic holiday. And 3. The celebration of All Saints' Day in Celtic regions is documented to be older than the documented celebration of Samhain. So let us look at each of these 3 claims. 1. In order for the anti-Halloween claim that Samhain is the origin of Halloween to be true, then Halloween and All Saints' Day should have started in Celtic areas. but we have already seen that All Saints' Day was celebrated in Syria as early as 373 AD, in Caesarea in 397 AD, and in Constantinople under Chrysostom. Now modern Istanbul by 407 AD. All Saints' Day and Halloween did not start in the Celtic countries. But it did take some time for the declarations of Rome to reach distant Celtic areas like Ireland. 2. In order for the anti-Halloween claim that Samhain is the origin of Halloween to be true, the particular day chosen should have some significance to the Celts and Samhain. But here we run into some serious problems. According to the best sources, Samhain was a lunar festival of harvest. That means that the day of Samhain can vary up to a month in difference from any solar year day. Compare, for example, the wide variety of days upon which Easter can take place. When sources claim that Samhain was October 31st to November 1st in the modern solar calendar, they are being dishonest and disingenuous. They are intending to deceive the reader. Due to the differences between lunar and solar dates, on the average Samhain would take place exactly on October 31st only once in about every 30 years. When the reader adds into this the fact that the Western calendar changed over from the Julian to the Gregorian at different times in different places, the reader can better understand how artificial the anti-Halloween claims are about Samhain. The Christian Church did not get Halloween All Saints' Day from the pagans. The anti-Halloween people are trying to claim that Christians stole from pagans. But the anti-Halloween people cannot even get their calendars straight. And they are hoping that the reader does not notice how weak and embarrassing their claim is. 3. In order for the anti-Halloween claim that Samhain is the origin of Halloween to be true, they should be able to prove that Samhain is older than All Saints' Day. But, in fact, the opposite is true. We have a manuscript from 843 AD, where the Irish Christian Bishop Angus of Tallaght wrote about the celebration of All Saints' Day. It was celebrated in the spring of the year at the time and in that place. The decree of Pope Gregory IV had still not reached Ireland, so that All Saints' Day should be celebrated November 1st. But the earliest ever mention of Samhain in Irish folklore does not come until the 10th century. There is no mention of Samhain outside of Ireland until centuries later. These, then, are the facts. Samhain comes from the 10th century AD and is a newer invention. All Saints' Day is older than Samhain. All Saints' Day came from the practice of honoring the Christian martyrs in Israel, Turkey, and Syria as early as the 2nd century and later. All Saints' Day and therefore Halloween originated outside the Celtic sphere of influence and had nothing to do with what the anti-Halloween people claims are about its origin. In fact, the newer holiday, called Samhain, was a lunar holiday. This means that it could be celebrated on any of 30 or so days in autumn of a given year depending on when the harvest moon was recognized in Ireland. And very, very rarely did this moon happen on October 31st. This simple truth cannot be emphasized enough.